The collapse is complete. Wisconsin football is unrecognizable, lifeless, rudderless, and out of excuses. Luke Fickell's supposed season of progress has turned into an incomprehensible nightmare. I'm Rajiv. He's Justin. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bucky Report, your destination for all things Wisconsin Badgers. Authentic takes.
Oh my God.
Game analysis.
Touchdown Badgers! Ring one up!
And discussion from the fan perspective.
Woo-hoo!
Thanks for joining us and on Wisconsin.
Welcome to the Bucky Report. We are your hosts, Rajiv and Justin, back together on a Monday evening this time to talk about all things Wisconsin Badgers. On today's show, we're tackling the question every Badger fan is asking: should Luke Fickell be fired right now? We'll break down the embarrassment against Iowa, why this program looks completely directionless, and what it says about where things stand in Madison. We'll also talk about Penn State's decision to fire James Franklin, how that move could reshape the Big Ten landscape, and what it might mean for Wisconsin's future. We'll also get into as many comments as we can, as it's important for you, the community, to make your voice heard tonight on this crazy therapy session. You can find our show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what we're doing, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Really appreciate that, and all the support of the show. A couple things to hit right off the top before we get into this, Justin. Great time in Madison. Not the game, but meeting so many people that listen to this show, watch Locked On Badgers. We had a great meetup on a Friday night at a bar in Cottage Grove. There was so many of you were out there. They're really fun. Tailgate on Saturday, bar time on Saturday. It was fantastic. And while going to the game was brutal, and while the product on the field is
a train wreck,
dog shit, what's not is this community and the people who support this show, and it's great. Justin, a word on that? Anything you want to say about that meetup?
Yeah, it was a blast. It was great to actually get to talk to people again and hang out and just have a few drinks. I had an awesome time. I was exhausted by the end of the weekend, but it was a lot of fun. Also, Buffalo Wild Wings wings late night are not good.
Well, they were good. I just don't know if they made us feel that good. But
yeah, no, mine were not good. I don't know about yours.
Mine tasted great. I enjoyed it.
We
did have a very late by Easttown Mall. We had some late B-dubs. A couple quick programming notes. I did get a couple of questions about my Saturday locks. I did not do that last week because we were traveling, and it was just a lot of moving around Madison and all that kind of stuff. But it was fantastic still being up there. So we did not do that. If you are interested at all in Big Ten Media Days, I did a special couple very short show there with Nick Osen from Big Ten Media Days, just some of the high points from what we talked about. We'll get into basketball a little bit more on another show. I wanted to cover it today, but honestly, there's just nothing else we can talk about except this god-awful football team. So we're going to focus on that. But we normally start with a 3 and out. We're going to skip that too. We're going to get right into this, Justin. I want to start with, we got a lot to cover. We're going to talk about the game itself a little bit. We're going to talk about how this affects recruiting. We're also going to talk about James Franklin, but we're going to start with some opening rants. And I have to just get a few things off my chest. And I know you have things you want to get off your chest. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to just say this again. Thank you all for joining us. There's already, a couple hundred of you in here, and I know there's a lot that you guys want to say. So I'm going to try to star as many comments as you can. If you want to ask questions or if you want to make your voice heard, put your stuff in the comments. I'll try to star some. And the last half of the show, we're going to not last part of the show. We're going to try to use as many of your comments as we can. All off season, Justin, 42-10 was the talk of everything, right? I mean, it was 42 push-ups. We got embarrassed. We're going to reshape our entire roster because Iowa beat the shit out of us. And we were doing everything we can. That was the focus. And for us, we believed it. I believed it. We got bigger on the defensive line. We weren't going to allow a team to run for 329 yards on us anymore. We weren't going to allow ourselves to get kicked in the teeth. We sure as hell weren't going to allow it at Camp Randall, where we already got kicked in the teeth by Minnesota last year. So we were going to be better. And then the Maryland game happened, and we thought, uh-oh. And then the Michigan game happened, and we're like, well, maybe. And then this disaster, as Jesse Temple said it best on his show earlier today, indefensible, completely indefensible. Nothing about this win really makes any sense, or loss makes any sense for the Badgers. So what's the point? Like, why did we spend all that time focusing on 42-10, 42-42 if you can't get your team up for this game? So it starts with an unnecessary roughness penalty before the game even kicks off. Super disciplined, right? Real disciplined. All throughout the game, all we saw was just nonsense on the field. Again and again and again, we just keep seeing the same stuff. Why do we even do this? Luke Fickell has done nothing but regress this program. This is our game. This is our rival. And they just came into Madison and thought, oh, you know what? We beat you 42-10 last year. Oh, we're just going to make it worse on you this year. Okay, because you're clearly up for it. You're ready for it. You've been talking about this all year. Surely you're not going to turn the ball over 3 times in the first quarter. Why would you ever do that? But no problem. Don't worry about it. The Badgers will always find a way to break your hearts. No heart, no discipline, nothing that a coach should be responsible for happened in this game. Nothing. Like, you can talk about the injuries. You can talk about Billy Edwards. You can talk about the lack of quarterbacks. I get all that. And that's all valid and fair. But it's not valid and fair to lose 37-0 against one of your rivals after all you've done is talk about how important this game was for a year. We haven't beat a Power 4 conference, a Power 4 team since Northwestern last year. All we've been talking about is finding ways to get back, finding ways to get better. It's all bullshit. That's all it is. This program right now is... I'm dying inside. I've been a fan of this team since 1999. This team has been basically good for 30 years. And for 30 years, we've been a rock solid high floor team in this conference. And now we are sitting at the very, very rock bottom. So 3 years in, what's going on here? Like I said after the Maryland game, Justin, that this was the end for me, and it's still the end for me, obviously. And we're going to have the Fire Fickell discussion, and I want to get your take on that. But as far as I'm concerned, like, you know, we say, oh, we hit rock bottom against Maryland. Oh, no, we're not. We still haven't hit rock bottom. We are in a free fall, and we will continue to be in a free fall until this administration and this athletic director decide to pull us out of that free fall, which means firing Luke Fickell. We're not going to get out of this free fall anytime soon. This is it. This is all it is. And until you make the decision, so administration, whether it's Mac or getting rid of Mac and it's Mnuchin, whatever it is, the ball's in your court now. This free fall will last as long as you allow it to. As long as you allow Luke Fickell and this coaching staff to keep running this program into the ground, you can do it. But the second you cut it and the second you fire him and you pony up that $25 million buyout, because let me tell you something, Penn State can do it. They dropped $50 million because that guy lost 2 games because they knew that he couldn't win a title. We're going to talk about that too. I'm almost done. I have one more thing. This is like, you just can't allow this stuff to happen. So whenever you decide to pull us out of this rut, that's when things are going to improve. You cannot start a rebuild with this coach. It all has to end. As far as I'm concerned, it should end now. But if it's not going to end until after the season, fine. Like, I can live with that because there are some things about it that you might want to keep it. I don't like it, but I can live with it. If Luke Fickell is the coach of this football program in 2026, I don't even know what I'm going to say on these podcasts because I will lose my mind. Don't sell me any line of crap about how things are going to get better and things are not. No, we just got rolled for the second year in a row by our second biggest rivals because we can't even be prepared for this game when you spent a whole bloody year trying to be prepared for it. Justin, your thoughts, sir?
You good?
I'm all right. I had to get that off my chest. Thank you for letting me rant for 10
no
minutes.
problem. I'm going to dive right in. First things first. After seeing the Penn State, and I've seen some things from people saying that they think he's gone and that they think it will be after Ohio State and Oregon in the bye week. I can get behind that. If that's the way you want to handle it and you don't want to have the interims have to deal with being the ones in charge of that nonsense, I get it, because the bump you'd normally get would just get annihilated with those 2 games. So any buy-in or anything that makes the players feel a little bit better probably goes out the window with facing those 2 teams. That said, I don't want to hear anything about buyout. I don't want to hear how it's expensive or whatever when Penn State does this, but it's not about Penn State to me. this is a reflection of you expect us as fans to go out and spend money to come to your games and to add or to give money as donors to the program. And then you want to insult us by not making a move when things are horrible. And I think it's ridiculous that you will sit there and hem and haw over paying a buyout when you made this mistake. Listen, I have no issue with taking a big swing and missing and, that being painful and to a degree having it held against you. What I'm saying with that is if you want to be a big time program, you're not going to get every time you go for it right. You have to be willing to flush it when things aren't working. If you're going to do this where you sit on it and next year you're going to go into next year, then you're just done. Because no fan is going to respect you as an athletic program anymore at that point. You've officially just decided that we should continue to spend our money on a broken product because you don't want to pay up. Well, guess what? We don't have to pay up either. And if that's the way it's going to be and you guys want to be idiots about paying a buyout, then guess what? We can just not show up to games and see how much you dislike not having the revenue from all of that. Let me guess. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this. If that happens, you're all losing your jobs. Because if suddenly you go down to $30K at Camp Randall on Sunday or on a Saturday, people up the ladder are going to start looking at it and go, what's going on here? Why has our revenue dropped so dramatically? And I'm sure they're aware what the deal is, but it looks really stupid when you are sitting here saying these people are inept that are underneath me for employees. And because it's expensive to me, I'm just going to let them continue to have a job. That is ridiculous. It doesn't happen in any other industry. Yes, it can be painful having to pay that buyout. You know what you shouldn't be doing? You shouldn't be giving that kind of deal if you aren't willing to eat it if you're wrong. And that to me is all I need to say on that. If you don't like it, don't hire somebody that's going to be $7-8 million a year. And that's fine. Nobody said you had to get Luke Fickell. It was renowned as being a very great hire at the time, but you didn't have to go to that level for fans to be happy. If it didn't happen, I don't think there's anybody that would have complained that the Badgers didn't hire Luke Fickell, because we likely would have never heard it was even a possibility.
We would have been fine if it was Jim Leonhard.
Or Jim Leonhard, or even somebody who was a well-respected lower-level coach that you knew you were getting at least stability put back into the program. One of my things is some of the things we've seen from people who are calling us out. I want a staff that has continuity and has a vision, is following their head coach's vision. I'm very concerned that if you hire somebody else, I don't want a coordinator. I want nothing to do with that type of hire, because if that person comes in and has to build a staff from scratch, I don't want to wait for them to figure it out. I want somebody who knows what they want to do. It's the biggest thing that has paid off for Cignetti at Indiana was he came in with a ready-made staff and they all believed in what he was trying to do. And they were all on the same page and they hit the ground running. I don't want to have to build an all-star team staff to try and figure it out together.
Where are you to the opinion now at this point that if you were making a decision, are you firing Fickell right now, this week? Are you upset that he's not already gone? Maryland. But you're ready. You're ready for him to be gone right away.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's malpractice by the athletic department if they don't.
So what's your take on, I know we know obviously Ryan, a good friend of ours, has also talked about how he actually, while he also is out on Fickell, he believes that he should be at the end of the season. Where do you lay on that line of, the other damage that can be done for releasing him now versus at the end of the season?
So there's a couple of different things I look at with this. One of these is you're kind of stepping in line now with the coaching carousel. By doing this, you want to be really careful and have the most opportunity to review what's there. You don't have to hire somebody right now, but the earlier you get in there, the more you start having names kind of dropped or back channeled to you that you don't want to have to be rushed to go through. It also gives you the chance to put that option out there you want to hire. If you want to do it early to see how many people you grab, I know they have to go through the state channels for putting the rec out there. put it out here in October or whatever and just say, all right, we're going to leave it up to the end of the season and see who we get. And that gives you, I want as many names as possible for this. I want to see who's out there. I don't want to see this be some stupid agents game where you end up having like 3 guys that back channel into this and are like, yeah, I'm on board. I think you need to legitimately interview people and have a lot of options that you look at and are serious about rather than doing something stupid by narrowing it down to a short list. Because you need to look at this from the standpoint of, we need to get the sharpest person possible for this. And I don't want to retread from Power 4. If it's somebody that doesn't have a lot of upside to them, I'm not saying you have to be a national championship person, but I don't want to get somebody who has a high floor and that's it.
I mean,
we can get to 7-5, 8-4. No,
Listen,
but you want a little bit of something there.
Okay, but I want the floor back. The floor dropped out so bad.
To me, that's a given.
Buddy, I would give my left arm to have a floor again. Like
to me, that's a given. Like that's the expectation is you have to have that. Like if you can't get this program back to at least respectable, then you can't hire that person.
For me, I don't really care about the upside as much as I care about like what the plan is. Like what kind of offense are you going to run? Who are you going to bring in? How are you going to take this program? How are you going to develop people? Like that's what I care about. So I don't really, because the win and loss total depends on what conference you're in.
That's part of that equation for me. That's why I said I want somebody who strongly believes in whatever they're looking to do.
Right, that's fair. And I just feel like I don't really care too much about like what. Like I want the person to be better, but at the end of the day, my side of this argument is get rid of him now as well. I understand the argument of, so I've heard the argument. I'm going to put Tyler Schreiber's comment up here. He says, let him take the beating for OSU and Oregon and cut him loose after that. Give the interim staff 2 weeks to prepare for Washington and give the team a boost going into the home stretch. I actually like this take, Tyler. Tyler was one of the guys we saw this weekend. Great friend of the show. Great dude. Yeah, like I agree with that take. Listen, if I wake up tomorrow morning and do a text message or a newsletter that says Fickell's been fired, I'm raising my hand going, let's go. Like, I'm also okay if it's after 2 weeks, but I also can we just get rolling here? I don't want to be caught behind the 8 ball come off season because listen, Penn State, they already cut bait. They're already looking to hire people. They're already back channeling everything they need to do. I'm just to the point where I want us to move on. So the damage is already done. Okay. I hear the argument about how, well, we could have more damage. We could have the locker room, all this. The locker room's already lost.
That's
okay.
Toast.
Like the damage is already done. This team isn't playing. They're literally not playing. Cut this man loose right now. Matt Honchel. Another good friend of the show. Saw him, helped us out so much this weekend, Honcho. We've hit the point where losing doesn't even sting. That's how you know it's bad. That was actually my next question, Justin. We're going to talk about that in a second. But like, I am ready for him to go now. But I swear, I know there are people out there and people that we know have said the same thing. The buyout's a problem. He might coach next year. Okay, let's find out what happens if Luke Fickell is a coach next year. You are going to have, as you said, Justin, 30,000 people, 20,000. You are going to lose so much revenue that you're pissing away the $25 million like that. So stop it with that nonsense. He cannot be the coach of this university any longer at all. Justin, there's a lot of apathy nowadays in the program. Sure. That's kind of what Matt brought up there. Like, I mean, that's where I'm angry, really, but so, I mean, the fact that we just walked out of that stadium, we went upstairs to the press box, sitting in the freezing cold weather, doing a reaction show, which I'm like, but I'm feeling apathetic, which that's worse than anything is when you have a fan base that's apathy. It's full of apathy now. Where are you? I mean,
absolutely.
Are you feeling apathetic?
Let's get back on track a little bit with the whole, what are reasons to get rid of him here? Okay. And one of them I'll say is going to recruiting. I think it makes sense to do it earlier here because you want to figure out which recruits are in and which recruits are out so that whoever does come in knows what he's dealing with. Because if you wait till the end of the season, the last thing you want is to have him come in, have a recruiting class that basically just dumps itself, right when he's in the middle of trying to figure out who wants to be here and who doesn't, and then having people get recruited out from under him right while they come here. I would much rather have, if everyone's going to jump ship, then be out the door and just be like, all right, what do I need to look at here and bring in? This roster is going to completely fall apart by the end of the season.
Yes.
Like there could be a turnover here to 50 to 60 new bodies coming into next year, which is fine. That's whatever. I don't care. It doesn't necessarily mean mass quantities of money. if you can get players that want to come in that are going to have opportunity, it's going to matter a lot. And Wisconsin gives you a big stage and opportunity if a lot of bodies leave, which is something you can sell. But I will say this, that's one of the focal points that I'm worried about. And also, like I said, having somebody be able to have a plentiful amount of time to be able to get a massive number of coaching options.
Yeah.
Because I don't want this to be a 3-person, mini list that we do. I want you to, if you have to interview 10 guys so you can see who seems like they have it together and who doesn't, then I want to see it. The one thing I will take away from Fickell is he could talk a really good game. That's about all he could do. I like the fact that he was introspective, but it doesn't matter how introspective you are if you don't have real answers and you follow a path and try to implement. And it feels to me like he was very wishy-washy with whatever he tried to do. That's the one thing you need to have in a coach, and it's one thing that honestly Chris actually had that was good. He felt strongly about something, and he would follow that probably to too far of a depth on it, where he'd end up hurting himself because he refused to reassess and adjust. You need a balance of that. Like, you need to believe in something so ridiculously that you are going to go follow that until it just fails. And that's basically what Chris did. It worked for a really long time until it didn't. And that's fine. That happens to a lot of coaches in college football. But that you have to have somebody that has belief. And that, to me, is truly important. I know people are talking about the wins and losses and being fickle or whatever. If you find somebody who has resolve and believes in something, we can hate PJ Fleck as much as we want. He believes in whatever he's trying to accomplish. I can look at him like thinking he's an idiot, but it doesn't matter what I think if he believes in it and he gives people to follow him. Maybe they don't have a ceiling, but they definitely are consistently in a decent team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, as far as the recruiting goes, to kind of get back to that, I think that you're going to lose him either way. Okay, whether he's gone now or whether he's gone at the end of the season, you're going to lose him. So give yourself a chance to get on track. Like, and if it's after the bye week, then fine. If you want to put an interim guy in for 2 weeks, whether that's Jeff Grimes, whether it's Matt Mitchell, I hope not. But like, whatever it is going to happen, the faster you fire, the faster you can move forward. Right? I mean, that's a simple formula. Like, if you're going to hold him there, you're not
time to
the
plan.
job. You can back channel all you want, but like, get this going. The entire country knows that Luke Fickell should not be the head coach of Wisconsin football anymore. Everybody in the mother knows that. Like, we're sitting in the press booth after the game, talking to some people from Iowa, and they were like, "Boy, I can't believe your program is in a situation like this." I mean, like, yeah. Like, everybody knows that this has to end. So why are we belaboring this? Get him out of the door. Like, I'm sorry. I want so badly for this to end because, and I hear the point of, well, let him take the beatings, right? Ryan has said that, like, let him, be the focal point of the downfall of, he's already the focal point of the downfall. Like, it's already over. Just cut bait now because there's nothing else that can happen. Like, I don't even want to see us play right now. We're going to lose 100-0 against Ohio State. Maybe we can have a little energy if Luke Fickell's gone. Maybe that can get people riled up and play a little bit better. I don't know. But this season is trash. This season is over. We might not win a game. We probably won't win a game. We're probably going to lose the Axe again. Probably get creamed at their place. Move on. Get something better and do it now. Do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the apathy factor, Justin, like, are you feeling apathetic about it or are you still angry?
I've been apathetic
your
about it.
at?
Like you saw, it takes me a bit to actually get the emotional energy up when we discuss it because I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't expect better than this. Like, at this point, I have very limited expectations of what I'm going to see from this staff. And listen, I know you brought up the camp earlier and they discussed whether they thought the team gave up. I absolutely think they gave up. We were sitting on that sideline watching Bertram's laughing while they were sitting there on the sideline during this game. And we saw such poor effort in this game that during the jump around, we discussed it on Ryan's show. 0 players with any energy, any positivity. There's clearly some issues here going on within this locker room of people not bought in. And a lot of it to me is your employees reflect leadership. And I feel like, or in this case, your players reflect their leadership. If your coach is rudderless and doesn't know what he's doing or doesn't have an answer, then your players are going to look, listless and not have direction. And that's what it looks like. You have a bunch of guys that don't look like they know what they need to do and don't have the investment and energy towards it.
There are so many good comments, by the way. We're starring them all. I promise you, as soon as we get through a couple more things, we're going to turn to the comments and just go down through them because there's a lot that we've started here. There's a lot that I want you guys to obviously have your voice here because there's a lot to get through. Quickly about the game, Justin. Obviously, we saw the opening nonsensical, unnecessary roughness penalty. One of the things I was excited about coming into the game, which boy was I wrong about, was Hunter Simmons. He looked pretty bad, man. 3 turnovers in the first quarter, almost the first quarter. One of the worst interceptions I think I've ever seen of a quarterback. I've watched
Perfect
the
pass
all
to that defensive lineman.
I've watched the all 22 part of it. I went to that particular play because I wanted to see it. Oh my God. I don't know what he's doing. That was horrendous. Then you got the backwards pass and you got the fumble. Like, we're turning the ball over constantly. Iowa's just taking total advantage. I was upset that we didn't go for it on 4th down on our first or second drive because we were almost, how many times are you going to get a chance to cross the 50 against this team? But just horrendous from Simmons. Do you feel like if Danny O'Neil starts this week?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I mean, we're still got to have a game.
I legitimately feel like there's a 75% plus chance of us going scoreless again in this game. I feel like Ohio State's going to sense blood in the water in this game and just want to take joy in destroying us. I think the first quarter is going to go a lot like the last year of Paul Chryst tenure, where they put up 21 on us in the first quarter, and they have a chance to be like 40 plus at the halftime. I think that's legitimately on the table.
Yeah, I mean, my gosh, it's going to be bad. By the way, I do think Danny O'Neil starts this week. And I just want to comment again. It's 2-1, by the way, in the bottom of the 9th. Assuming your watch is on your phone. I wanted to start this show later, but Justin wanted to go a little earlier. So don't blame me. Blame him. Blame him. So, all right. One of the bright spots, Justin, as we both talked about, was Dylan Jones running hard. I just want to have a couple minutes to talk about some of the performances that I thought were worthy of at least a discussion. Dylan Jones, best game, best he's ever ran. Would you agree this year? Is that the best you've seen him
Absolutely.
run?
I thought there were times we looked at it where I'm like, man, he's running really hard. He bounced off a tackle and ended up picking up 6-7 yards. And then, the offensive line would have a couple times where they didn't do him favors, and then he'd have another nice run. And it's like, man, if he could ever get consistent blocking, he would look great in that game. It's just he made a lot. He did a lot in that game. Like we've talked about needing to find things that aren't there. I felt like he did a lot of that in that game. He found yardage that wasn't necessarily there.
He ran hard. He ran really hard. And I will say, look, by no means am I here to defend anyone on this team. And I'm not going to do that. But what I will say is that the offensive line, while they did not look good, they also did not, at times they looked a little bit better. Like they're starting to maybe find something. Like, I don't know if we started the season with this offensive line, like we've said many times, maybe by now we would have been running the ball better. Like I did think they got a little more push. And I watched a little bit of the All-22. I saw a little bit more push. That's why Dylan Jones was able to run a little bit. He ran hard, but there was a little bit more push on that line. I'm not saying it's good. Please don't misunderstand me. But I do think that I like some of the performances that I saw. I like some of the effort from some of those guys. Listen, 90% of the team played awful, but there were a couple guys that I thought gave good effort. And Daryl Peterson got a really bad penalty on roughing. I mean, a unnecessary roughness penalty. But I thought Daryl Peterson played pretty hard too. I was happy with his just specific performance. Was there any other standouts for you, Justin? Like, by the way, the uniforms, that's a standout for me. I like it. The problems, the last time you played that with your uniform, we were a horrible team. Now we're just regurgitating that. Any other positives for you?
Not really. I mean, any of the players like you had, oh man, Peterson actually played somewhat decent to an extent, then had a horrific personal foul. I'm not going to give you props for making a couple plays, but when you go out there and you also hurt the team. Like these players are just undisciplined and don't care anymore. And we felt that. Like we definitely felt like watching this team that these guys just don't care. And it almost feels like they're trying to get their coach fired. And maybe that's the case. Maybe they don't feel great about this and they're just kind of like, whatever.
Bases are loaded now. Wow, boy, geez, this is bananas. The Milwaukee Brewers. Yeah, unbelievable.
And you said they couldn't come back.
I mean, I don't think they can come back. I don't think they can come back. But I'm a little bit.
Now the pressure's on the pitcher.
Listen,
you get a walk. You get a run here.
Listen,
And
I'm a little
Turang
salty. Okay, I'm a little salty. Do you know why? Because on one side of me, I have Justin and Honcho. On the other side of me, I've got Zach Bartz just chirping about the Brewers during the Cubs game. Like Zach,
I haven't said at the game. You brought that upon yourself the night before.
What? How did I bring that upon myself?
Trump Rajiv attacking me, saying Brewers suck, and we're gonna kick your butt tomorrow.
I was a little inebriated on Friday night, but that literally every time there was a strike pitched by the Brewers, I felt like Zach Bartz looked at me. It's like Brewers, yeah. I'm talking to you, Zach. I know you're listening to this show. All right. Yeah, the Cubs do. Yeah, the Cubs do suck. Yeah. Okay, Slim Lewis. Thank you. Well, we're not in it. But anyway, I digress. So, yeah, not a lot really to be excited about at all in that game. I thought Iowa, they didn't even play that well. It didn't even matter. You don't have to play well to beat the Badgers right now because you just have to have a pulse at this point and decide that you're not going to do stupid things and make stupid plays and big dumb turnovers. And that's all you have to do. The next 2 weeks, we're playing the number 1 team. And now the number, 6 or 7 team after Oregon's crazy loss to Indiana. We're going to get crushed. We know this. And if Luke Fickell is going to take his beatings, then that's fine. But after the bye week, boy, I really do like what Tyler said about the bye week. You have to cut it at that point, right? You have to. I mean, my goodness. Okay, we touched on recruiting a little bit, Justin. I want to get your take on this. Let's talk about some of the guys. We know that Latimer has looked elsewhere. We know that he's done an official visit to Ohio State. Pettit is certainly one of our top guys. I went and watched Ryan Hopkins. He's one of our top guys. We lost Bardo today. So talk to me about the 26 class and what your fears are, irregardless whether we keep him or we let him go, whatever happens. Like, where are you at with this 26 class at this point and how this all affects it?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have fears. I think, to me, I expect my perspective on this is pretty simple. If you fire him, I just view it as the entire class is gone. And I'm fine with that. I've made peace with that. You need to start building a roster towards next year with whatever that means and to try and put together a team that's just going to play hard and do whatever. You're going to have to rebuild the talent level long-term as you go. Maybe you could talk to some of these guys.
Game over.
Yeah. Shush. Maybe you could talk some of these guys into staying. That would be awesome if you could. I get the feeling the type of hire we're going to make is not going to keep somebody like Pettit around or Petit. I just think it's going to be really hard because he's got top-end offers right now. And Wisconsin's going to be in rebuilding mode. Like we talked about it. There were people that said that it wasn't when Luke Fickell came in. Well, it is now. This is absolutely a full roster reconstruction. And I don't have an issue with somebody coming in and being like, we're flushing this and starting over. If that's the case and that's the way you need to do it, so be it. I want people that want to be here at number 1, and they're going to play hard for whoever comes in. And I don't know who that's going to be. Like I said, I have a couple of things I don't want to see. I don't want to see a rehash Power 4 coach that seems to be a guy who's just in the middle of whatever conference they're in and never seems to have, be better than 7-5. And I don't want somebody who's going to come in that's going to be the new hot coordinator who you're just hoping is the real deal. Because those guys, to me, are so much risk when you don't know what type of staff they're going to put together, when you don't know how good they are as a potential head coach, that I'm like, this program badly needs stability right now. You can't afford to miss. You have to have somebody that's going to at least make you stable again. And you can move forward from there and do whatever, 3-4 years from now, if that works out. But you cannot get this wrong again and have this bottom out further because whoever comes in, the job is too big for them.
Bo Dragon says, I don't care about any of Fickell's recruits. As far as I can tell, they all suck. I disagree with that take, but I do understand the sentiment, Bo, and I think it's fair. I do care about some of these guys. I do want some of them to stay. I think Ryan Hopkins is a really good quarterback. I would love for him to play for Luke Fickell or another coach for that matter. And I think Pettit is a difference-making wide receiver, and I would like to keep him too. Now we're going to
love to keep them. I just don't expect to.
Right. I'm just saying, like, I would love to be able to keep them and to do whatever we can to keep as much of those guys. But the primary thing is to get rid of Luke Fickell. That's like, I don't want to, I mean, honestly, like I think
by default, you're going to be better with whoever comes in.
I mean, how do Badger fans like us and like everyone listening to this stomach going to Badger games and watching Badger games every week? I mean, God, the next 2 weeks are going to be absolute disasters. And then we have a bye, and then who knows what's going to happen at the end. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, the Super Bowl is Minnesota. I would love to beat PJ Fleck. If I could have that, that'd be really great. One of the things before we get into comments, Justin, I wanted to talk about another school in the Big Ten who made a massive move. A coach did get fired yesterday. It just wasn't Luke Fickell. It was James Franklin, who, what took Penn State to the playoff last year, was a number 2 ranked team coming into the country this year, coming into the season. And he's fallen pretty hard. They lost to Oregon in a close battle. Then they lose to UCLA and at home to Northwestern. Not a good situation. 2 of the worst teams in the Big Ten. Not the worst, because that belongs to the W. And they cutthroat, absolutely cutthroat, Justin. They just said, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to get rid of James Franklin. He cannot win a title. He went 4-21, I think, against ranked teams, 3-17 against the better teams in the Big Ten. Just absolutely horrible against good teams. Super high floor, but there was really no ability to win a title. At least that's what it looked like. And now what I will say is, I don't necessarily agree with them getting rid of James Franklin because I think that he's still a pretty good coach. However,
there's a lot of risk with
I will agree, and I will give them a lot of credit for having the balls and the deep pockets to do that. And I wish my program had the balls and the deep pockets to be able to just cut bait. UCLA also cut bait earlier in the season to just say, you know what? No, I don't care what the buyout is. You're gone. We know this is not going to work. Our school doesn't do that. What are your thoughts on the James Franklin firing?
I agree with what you're saying. It's kind of how I felt about the Fickell thing, which is if something's not working, you need to be strong enough to make a move and move forward. And when we hired Fickell, I said it, like, this might not work out, but if it doesn't, you need to still be willing. You can't get gun shy from it. You need to still be willing to take, risks and move forward to try and better your program. Like the lesson that you learned from that is not to play it safe, because playing it safe makes for a very low ceiling. I think that you need to continue to try and do what's best for your program. You take the data, assess it, and look at the areas where it failed and try to address that when you make your next hire. But you look at it from the standpoint of what can we do better? Now, I will say this. I don't know who the heck Penn State hires. Like, who are you getting that's like the young superstar that's going to put you in a better place? Unless you're going to take somebody from like a peer and just say, we're Penn State, we can hire somebody away. Like, if you're going after Lanning or whoever, like, I don't know who you bring in. Like, who is the guy that you look at that is a can't miss?
I mean, obviously Cignetti is the guy that everybody wants. Like, he's proven. Well, let me tell you something. Apologies to all Indiana fans. I was clearly just wrong. I don't know what the hell what's in the water down there in Bloomington, but boy, oh boy, is that a good program. I mean, I want to
say something about him because I do have thoughts on this. I know Penn State will think that they can make this happen. If you're Cignetti and the resources that are being given to you by Indiana now are similar to what you get at Penn State, what is the incentive to go to Penn State? You're going to be you're going to have so much more scrutiny there than what you get at Indiana. And at Indiana, you could probably have the same results. So why move? Like, why want that pressure if things aren't perfect one year, that you have potentially your AD fan base, breathing down your neck? That's not going to happen at Indiana. Like, he's got such a long leash there and has people that are so willing to open the purse strings. And who knows if Penn State will be willing to just throw money at this now. Like, you just paid a $50 million buyout. They probably will hire well, but that doesn't mean that they're going to give him all the resources in the world. Like, are you going to suddenly come up with $40 million for him to put towards a roster too?
I mean, I think that their situation, they've got, obviously Penn State's got plenty of deep pockets. They're going to make a good hire. They made the decision now so that I think they can do what I want to do, which is take the rest of the season, make all your calls, do all the back channeling you need. The name that I've heard, I feel like is most likely there is probably Matt Rule from Nebraska, just because Rule is a Penn State guy. He is.
Do you think that that's an upgrade?
He very much wants to be at Penn State. I mean, he very much is in love with Penn State as a program. He stood up there today. I heard what he said, and he said all the right things. Like, I'm here in Nebraska. I want to win in Nebraska. I don't talk about coaching openings. It's the same thing he said at Baylor. The same thing he said wherever he was before that. Like, but is that a better hire? Not necessarily. Like, Matt Rule, maybe his ceiling could be higher than James Franklin because James Franklin's not going to win a title. But if you pay $50 million to go get Matt Rule, that's a little nuts. I've seen names like Bill Belichick floating out there, which is crazy. I've seen, obviously, Curt Cignetti. I've seen Matt Campbell from Iowa State. And I think the reason I bring this up is I think there will be a knock-on effect, Justin. Like, at some point, one of these guys is going to Penn State. One of them is going to come to us, potentially. So it's like, how does this affect the Wisconsin job? Because the coaching carousel is going to get rolling. When Penn State is hiring a head coach, just like when Alabama hires a head coach, that changes the landscape. This is one of those jobs. So there will be a knock-on effect. I don't think Cignetti's going anywhere. I agree with you. I would love for him to leave Indiana.
He's going to get a big payday.
But I don't think he's going to leave there. I did think so last year. I don't think so anymore. So I think Matt Rule might be that guy. But it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how the carousel affects Wisconsin. Like, if Rule goes to Nebraska, then is Matt Campbell from Iowa State going to go to Nebraska then? If he goes to Penn State, and where will we get our coach? Hence, the earlier we're deciding, the better. Listen, administration, cut this man loose now.
Matt Campbell's an interesting name. I don't know if he's somebody that would even consider Wisconsin over there. I think we'd have to pay a premium given that where we're at. Because in some ways, being in the Big 12 right now, whereas the money may be lower for some of the things, you have a much easier route to the playoff there right now. Like, you have a better chance of winning that conference than you do at diving into Wisconsin in the Big 10 and hoping that you can get to 9-3 or 10-2 to find a way into the playoffs. So I don't know if it's a smart move, even for him to go to Nebraska. I think it's a questionable thing because who knows what's going to happen to that roster if Rule leaves. But I also look at it from the perspective of I don't think Rule's an upgrade for Penn State. I think that's a very
lateral.
Yeah, it's a lateral move there. I don't know if he has the upside to truly compete against the top shelf teams. Do you see him as a guy that can challenge Ohio State or Oregon or any of the other top shelf coaches? Because that's really what you're looking for. I do think Cignetti, if he gets more talent on that roster, is capable of hanging with these other teams. The biggest takeaway we had when we watched them against Notre Dame last year was Notre Dame was just better. Like, they had more talent. It was not really a great game for them in that regard.
So for what it's worth, I do think that Rule's ceiling is higher than James Franklin. I think with the right, because listen, with the right team, with the right administration, with the right backing and the deep pockets, like coaches, a lot of coaches can win national titles. It's about the entire infrastructure, and Penn State has one of the best infrastructures that you can have out there. All right, let's get into a lot of comments. We've got a lot of comments started. I'm not obviously going through all of them, but I did star several. So Bradley Collins says, are they not firing him solely because it's Ohio State and Oregon next, or the buyout? I think it's the buyout. I think that's the only reason they're not firing him. I don't think it has anything to do with the next couple of weeks.
Well, let me put it this way. I don't think that they had made their mind up after the last game, but I think a lot is going to hinge on how horrific these next couple games are, which I think all of us assume are just going to be absolute train wrecks.
I mean, yeah.
And I think that that's going to be where, like, they may be sitting here thinking right now, we're probably going to make this move, but I don't think anything's been truly decided. I will say that it makes far more sense to do it then. I don't think it makes sense for you to wait till the end of the season, because the level of apathy, if this does turn as bad as I expect it to, is going to be off the charts. Like, you have a legitimate chance here that you could end the season with, what are we in it right now? 2-4. We had 6 more games.
We're 2-4.
You could end up with 7 straight blowouts to end this season. And I think that's literally the most likely outcome.
That's what happened.
Every game will be by probably at least 2 scores.
That's what happened to Purdue last year. And the minute the Indiana game ended, they fired the Ryan Walters. Brett Rolls says, Justin, as a Packers fan, do you think Mike McCarthy would be a worthwhile hire?
Absolutely not. I want nothing to do with him in here. I don't think that he fits the college game. I don't see any reason whatsoever to rehash somebody who's past his prime in the NFL and think that he's going to come in here and be able to piece this together and have him figure out the college game with all the nuances and everything that's going on with all the rules that are here. He never had to adhere to any of this stuff in the NFL. And now you're expecting him to jump in here and be able to figure things out. He is, and he's also, I just don't think that he would be anything special in the college level. Somebody brought up Mike Sherman as a comparable there, and they're like, look what happened with him at A&M. He had all the resources in the world, and he was horrific there.
Yeah. Good friend of the show, Kevin Brown, also someone we saw this weekend, says, need to fire Mac first, hire a new OD. No, need to hire a new AD who will be responsible for cleaning up the department. The new AD then hires the coach the new AD wants. I'll take this one. Yeah, totally agree, Kevin. I think that Mac and Fickell are pretty much tied at the hip at this point. Like, Mac hired Fickell. That was a swing that he took. It's a swing he's responsible for. Didn't work. Clearly didn't work. It's got to cut. I think it's, I agree. But I still think you cut him now, maybe at the bye week, and then at the end of the season, potentially, or even before that, you cut McIntosh, you bring someone else, and you've got to start it going in the right direction. Will Hannes, as a coach, must have Wisconsin ties. Preach physicality on both sides of the ball and build a great relationship at the high school level within the state.
I don't necessarily agree with that sentiment. I do think they have to be somebody. I think Wisconsin, it lends itself to a more pro style attack in general. We just have never been able to recruit skill positions at a high level. So I do think like a power spread is probably what you're looking for. Realistically, I just think you need a coach who's a good guy, who's down to earth, who the state can appreciate. I think if you get somebody slick, Wisconsin's not the type of state that deals with that type of energy very well. It's just a very blue collar state. So having somebody like that wants to come in with image or flash over substance is probably not going to go over well with the in-state recruiting. I just think you need somebody who's really like Leipold was a guy that I obviously I brought up numerous times. His mentality of being a guy who's very like rigid or like disciplined and like, this is what we're going to do, almost like drill sergeant-esque. I think that's the type of guy you need. You need that type of energy where it's like this person has control of his team and has direction and people are following. Yeah. And Leipold would not be the guy. I see somebody saying he's old. Yeah, he's not the guy I would go after this go around, but I'm saying you need somebody like him.
Let's burn through some of these comments a little quickly so we can get some of these voices out here. Robert Swartz says, born in 94, never seen things this bad. A-Lad, Rajiv, you over the quarterback fixation. The problems were never going to be solved by anyone behind the center. I think the university needs to get serious about athletics. Yeah, I think it's a fair point. Look, I think we had this discussion via text today. I think Wisconsin is an amazing academic institution. It clearly has not, it does not prioritize athletics as much as the bigger schools like Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State do. That's just a fact. That's a fact. That's not changing. Remember, all the years in the Barry era, we took 3 stars, developed them, right? Like, we were a development program that had the limited resources, but then he turned them into stuff. So did Bielema, so did Anderson, so did Christ. But now we're in a basement. So everything that was built is kind of just falling down. I don't know that the athletic department's really going to be, I don't think the department's ever going to get as much bigger and serious than it is right now. We just have to be better. We have to have a better coach. I think that's the key. Raul Correa, Jason Eck, you are the new head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers. That's a name that's going to be out there a lot. That's a name I have mentioned many times. I very much like him.
I like him, but I need to see more.
Yeah, well, that's fair. That's fair. But you talk about an identity. You bring up identities, and that's a
I
guy
do,
with an
but
identity.
he's struggling a little bit. Like he started out things going very well this season,
Yeah.
but he's come down to earth a little bit. And it's like I need to see you figure things out here and find a way forward. And I will say this: New Mexico's not a great program. Like he came into a rough spot there. I wish we had a year or two more of data on him to see what he's doing there before jumping in on him.
Yeah. Carl, here's a hot take. Leonard for AD. There's an interesting one. Tim Breen says, give me Matt Campbell. Zach Bartz, Jimmy ain't touching us with Mac still here. I agree with that. Jimmy's not, I don't think Jimmy comes back with Chris Matt.
I don't know if he would even without him.
I think he would. I think he would.
Head coach that I want to bring up, I was discussing with Strieber before. The head coach of Syracuse is, let me grab his name.
I don't know his name.
I have it. It is Fran Brown, I believe. Yeah, Fran Brown with Syracuse. Former defensive coordinator at Georgia. Really seems to have that team playing hard. They're a little inconsistent, but the resources he has at Syracuse just aren't what he's going to have here. I think he's a guy who's going to have – he's just somebody that recruits really seem to be interested in as a coach. Mm-hmm. He's a young guy, but he seems like he's got a pretty high ceiling and has it together there. He's done a pretty good job with Syracuse, had a couple of upsets. I do think he's a guy that there's some potential there. Same Brian Key from Georgia Tech people have brought up before too, but that's his alma mater. I would be really shocked to see him leave there, even if he's not making huge money.
Yeah. Alan Saunders says, look at UCLA. They got rid of a terrible coach. New interim coaches, passion and energy now. Absolutely. They've done much better. My Lord Lester, would you take Franklin if coordinators come with him? Yes, because I'll take Andy Kotelnicki on this team any day of the week.
Why not just get rid of Franklin, then hire Kotelnicki?
Maybe they will. I don't know. Like it's just Bo Dragon says hell no to hiring Franklin. That's interesting.
I agree with that sentiment. I want nothing to do with Franklin. To me, he had really good coordinators, and he's a C+ coach.
T-Temp says happy with everyone gone from this crew. Players are going to have to interview, stay. Pat Fitzgerald is the guy. Northwestern paying half his salary, more NIL money, and done with it. Hilton gone, targets wasted on Tretch. Look, I don't think Pat Fitzgerald is the guy. Pat Fitzgerald, and I when I first heard this name, I was a little bit higher on it, and then Ryan kind of reminded me, like he had several really down years. Now, listen, Northwestern didn't have the roster. We all know this, but still, like,
well, Hankwitz was a big part of his success.
Yeah. Man, there's almost over 550 of you guys watching. Thank you so much. A lot of fun stuff here. A lot of not fun stuff, just awful. But hey, listen, I'm here to see more Jason Eck. I absolutely love that. Eric Morris from North Texas.
So what I'll say on that is somebody like North Texas, I'm interested. I do question how guys from that level translate. And I know I've said to you before, I want to see somebody brought up who has been doing it at a lower level and seems to do a good job. I think there is a certain amount of risk with that being dropped, like a big fish in a small pool to being dropped into a big pool, because there's going to be some learning on the go. The coaching aspect, I think, is the part that Wisconsin cannot miss. You can have somebody try and figure out recruiting at this level. If they have some chops, I think you can work your way through some learning on that. But I don't think you can have somebody that just isn't a good coach.
We have talked a little bit about him, but let's just talk it. Let's have a little more quick formal discussion before we end the show today about Jimmy Leonard. So Jim Leonard, he's my number one choice. Let me make this very clear. Like Jim Leonard, to me, I do not fault Chris McIntosh for the decision he made to hire Luke Fickell. I do fault him for keeping Luke Fickell. And I think that in retrospect, the better decision would have been Jim Leonard. Now, does he have head coaching experience? No. Is he automatically the guy? We don't know that. Could he be great here because he wants to build his alma mater into something fantastic? You absolutely believe it. He also knows Wisconsin. He knows what our limitations are as far as NIL or our dollars and how committed the university is to the athletic department. He understands these things. I am a big believer that you kick the tires on Jim Leonard. If I'm Chancellor Mnuchin, I'm already calling him and saying, are you interested? If we get rid of Mac, are you coming back? Like, you got to kick the tires on Jim Leonard. I know you have a different take, and I'm going to give you the floor for that. I just feel like Jim Leonard will automatically make the defense better. He will automatically bring back the culture. The soul has been ripped out of this program, Justin. Like we talked about this on the reaction show, all the integrity, all of the identity is gone. Give that back. Jim Leonard immediately helps with that. I'm not saying he brings it back fully, but it helps with it. I want Jim Leonard to be talked to in this regard. And if you choose not to hire him and that's the decision you're making for whatever reason, fine. But I think it's a mistake not to kick those tires and to see if you can get him back, because he also is my favorite Badger of all time. So let me be clear on that. What's your take on Jim Leonard and being the next guy?
I'm fine with him talking to him. I don't like the hire, and I'll give you my reasons why. I don't think he's a guy that on the administrative side of things that I'm really comfortable with. I think he came up inside the Wisconsin system, which was the old school way, which does not fit now. And I don't trust the athletic department as currently built being able to provide the training wheels necessary for someone like him, who's going to need the recruiting infrastructure and everything else put in there. I know he's a sharp guy, but you don't know what you don't know. And when you haven't been inside one of the machines that actually understands doing that at a high level, and you were under a coach who decided that you didn't even need a recruiting department for like 8 months, I don't know what we're going to see administratively from him in terms of recruiting, in terms of hiring an additional staff. Now, I know he's a sharp guy. I'm very curious of who he would have in mind that he would hire around him. And I also wonder how he would be as a head coach, because let's be honest, they weren't great under him for the remainder of that season. They could have gotten super fired up too. And they had some games. They lost to Minnesota that year in a game that they probably could have won him the job, and they failed. And part of that was because they just did not listen, that team had some talent. You had Nick Herbig and you had Keanu Benton on that defensive line.
Part of it was the uncertainty of everything was happening. Like you lost Coach Chris during that season. Like I don't really put the losses on him. Like he wasn't his team. It wasn't his play from the beginning.
The fire wasn't there. Like we didn't have great fire at the end of that season either. And if
I don't put that on the interim coach. I'm not going to put that on the interim coach though.
Well, I mean, he's coaching for the job. Like that was his interview.
Okay, it's a fair point. That's a fair point. I can understand that. Nathan Hammond says Jimmy's recruiting isn't stellar. I think it's one of those things where he's got to hire a Pat Lambert type. He's got to have like a big recruiting department. He knows what his limitations are. And look, I understand people disagree with me, and that's fine. But I would like the tires kicked on Jim Leonard. Lots of chat in this episode. Lots of talk. Thank you all for joining us. I want to do a final minute here, Justin. So just take it away and give me your final thoughts. This has been one of the worst weekends we've ever had as Badger fans, and it's about as low of a point as we can get. What are your final thoughts here?
To be blunt, I want to see this program prove that it is serious about being college football. I'm not saying you need to be spending with the top teams in the Big Ten, but you at least need to prove that you're not okay with just sucking. And right now, when you make decisions where you don't seem like you're bought into the idea of getting rid of a coach that is clearly failing and is going to potentially have the worst season record that you've had in the last 35 years, it's really hard to take you seriously. And to all the people that are out there that are paying good money and coming to see these games, what incentive are you giving them to want to pay and come see your team? Like you've proven that you don't care. So why should they care? Like you're making it all about looking at your QuickBooks. I don't care. Like if you're serious about college sports, you just had your new TV deal come into effect 2 years ago that doubled what your TV revenue was. And you're one of the top 20 revenue athletic departments in the entire country. Paying a $25 million buyout is not fun, but if you're serious about having a good athletic department, pull your head out of your ass and get it done and prove that you're serious about competing both academically, athletically, and just as an institution in general. And it's a joke if you don't. And I hope that nobody shows up to the game. I don't have any intentions of spending any money going to any more games until you prove that you're serious, because it's a slap in the face to have you react this way. Yeah,
all good points. I mean, I think that it's very clear that this program is it's a disaster at this point. This is a business. This is what this is. I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar business. And when you have a man who is making as much money as Luke Fickell is making and not doing his job, and in fact has totally regressed and taken all of the work that Barry Alvarez and Brett Bielema and all those guys did and basically flush it down the toilet, because now we got to restart from all that. You go back to 91, 92. That's where we're starting from, basically. Like, we are there. We have to rebuild it all back up. And it's indefensible. It's unacceptable. And it's just incomprehensible what has happened to this program. And to see Camp Randall empty out after the third quarter, to see the total apathy from fans, to hear the booing, to hear the fire Fickell chants, which are totally and rightfully said at this point, a change is necessary. A change is needed. I just cannot go on watching this man on the sidelines trying to get this team ready to play when week in and week out he is unprepared and he's not having his team ready. We're simply not performing. We're not getting any better. We're only getting worse, and there is no reason to leave him here. And I'm going to say this one last time. If Luke Fickell is the coach in 2026, this is going to be the most negative podcast you have ever heard. I cannot and will not accept this. I'm not going to pay $25 million to get him out. You've got to be kidding me. Like, you need to do whatever you have to pay to get this man out of our club.
If that's the case.
You literally cannot say this. Like, if he is our coach, it is the biggest travesty of all time, and I can't understand it. Okay. We do have a game next week. We do have a game against Ohio State. That's going to be interesting. We're going to be back for our 3 big things. Don't know what that episode's going to look like, but we'll be back. I'm going to do Saturday Locks again this week and bring that back after taking a week hiatus while we traveled.
I'll be impressed if they can figure out how to put out their uniforms on correctly at this point.
Yeah. An unbelievable time with the people that we got to meet. Once again, I just want to say, despite all the negativity on this episode and all the negativity in the fan base, it was so much fun meeting, hanging out, drinking a lot of drinks. Friday, if you were out with us on Friday night, that was Rajiv got a little silly, as did Ryan. But Justin drove us home. He was good. It was a lot of fun. So thank you so much. It was an amazing time. We very much appreciate it. And listen, hopefully better days are ahead, because you can't get much lower than we are right now. Justin, until next time, my friend. But thank you all for joining us, and as always, on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Bucky Report or The Bucky Report Podcast from wherever you get your content. Until next time, on Wisconsin.